Before I get started, I'd just like to say channel memberships are live, and for a small amount, you can help support and grow this channel. With that said, let's get right into it. The Darksaber, an enigmatic status symbol that originated with House Vizsla, created by the first known Mandalorian Jedi, Tar Vizsla. It changed hands quite a few times to successors of the Vizsla name. However, since the Clone Wars, it has been bounced around to non-Vizslas and even non-Mandalorians by means of Darth Maul, Kanan Jarrus, and Moff Gideon. Yes, I know Kanan Jarrus didn't technically wield the Darksaber or own the Darksaber, but he was in possession of it for a short period. Now it resides with our Mandalorian hero Din Djarin, the cuddly bounty hunter turned father to Grogu. The Darksaber has continued to be the symbol of leadership of the Mandalorian people for centuries. But should it continue to be that symbol, and has it really always been that symbol, of which a Mandalorian will use to rally their people behind them? Much like many of the monarchs of our own world, the crowns dissolve, a new system of government is created, and the ones that remain have nowhere near the power they held during the golden years of their monarchy. I've heard some viewers say that the Darksaber should remain viable, that it's a Mandalorian symbol and cultural thing, and that's fair to say. Don't worry, I do think those are valid arguments. However, this video is to point out reasons that the Darksaber should be destroyed. That doesn't mean I'm 100% behind the idea, but there are valid arguments for it. I do still believe Boba Fett will be the Mandalore. Just watch, he's gonna wield the Darksaber. Or maybe not. The Darksaber was created 1041 years prior to the events of The Mandalorian Season 2. You know, before Moff Gideon lost it to Din Djarin? The Darksaber was created by the only Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order, Tar Vizsla. Well, that we know of to current date. Tar was a great Jedi warrior and went on to be the leader of the Mandalorian people, an amazing leader. However, when he became the Mandalorian leader, he passed on the Darksaber to the Jedi, where they stored it in the Jedi Temple archives, where during the final days of the Old Republic, members of House Vizsla broke in and took the Darksaber. From the end of the Old Republic until the middle of the Clone Wars, it was passed down from generation to an heir of the Vizsla name. That is, until Pre-Vizsla was defeated by Maul in single combat during the Clone Wars. Maul then took the blade and deemed himself leader of the Mandalorian people. It was after that moment that the Darksaber would no longer be passed down from Vizsla to Vizsla, but it would be up in the air as to who defeated whom in single combat. Even though House Vizsla held the Darksaber for about 1009 years, give or take, only one of those carrying the Vizsla name was the rightful leader of the Mandalorian people, Tar Vizsla. That means no other Vizsla had ruled with the Darksaber over the Mandalorian people. However, Vizslas had always been in charge of Death Watch, the political organization that believed Mandalorians should return to their roots as conquerors and warlike people. Even the most notable of Death Watch, Tar Vizsla, the Death Watch leader and adversary to Jango Fett, wasn't the leader of the Mandalorian people. Jaster Muriel, then Jango Fett were. Another notable Vizsla was Pre-Vizsla, who again led Death Watch only. He carried the Darksaber. Why didn't the other Mandalorians recognize him as their leader? Why did he have to try to stage a coup? Once Pre-Vizsla was killed by Maul, Death Watch was mostly disbanded or was rebranded as Maul's Super Commandos under the umbrella of the Shadow Collective, Maul's criminal organization made up of multiple groups of the underworld criminals. Now, since Tar Vizsla, remember him, the Jedi Mandalorian who created the Darksaber, Maul had been the only one to use the Darksaber as a symbol of divine right. But like I said, it was used to lead House Vizsla and Death Watch. It's only been for the last 32 Star Wars years, it has been used as a symbol of power and authority over the entirety of the Mandalorian people. A relatively short period when you factor in the age of the weapon. But this isn't the sole reason the Darksaber could be considered obsolete. Also, as I said before, the Darksaber was created by a Jedi, the only Mandalorian Jedi in current canon that we know of. He used the weapon for good, to be a protector of peace as the Jedi were. Tar Vizsla had handed over the weapon to the Jedi when he left the Order to become the Mandalorian leader, so he didn't even use it as a symbol of his leadership to the Mandalorians. Now, it's starting to look like the divine right of the Darksaber is more made up in recent times than anything. However, since Tar Vizsla's death, House Vizsla and really all of Mandalore has had a distrust of the Jedi and all Force wielders, even waging war on them a time or two. When we get to pre-Vizsla, he tells Obi-Wan Kenobi, "This lightsaber is stolen from your Jedi temple by my ancestors during the fall of the Old Republic. Since then, many Jedi have died upon its blade. Prepare yourself to join them." The very opposite the Darksaber was created for. I mean, why would a Jedi, a good Jedi who never turned to the dark side, create a weapon to use against his own order, especially when he turned it in after no longer saw a use for it? So this means the blade was not used as it was intended for centuries. In fact, it's been killing members of the Jedi Order, the same order it was created through. Okay, let's move a couple decades into the future to the Mandalorian series for a moment. Din Djarin gained possession of the Darksaber through beating Moff Gideon in single combat, the way the Darksaber is supposed to be won. During the journey to get to the Imperial leader, Din Djarin has created a clan of two, Clan Mudhorn. In that clan is Din Djarin and little baby Grogu, or Baby Yoda if you prefer to call him that, because Grogu's just a weird name for a baby. A Force-sensitive Jedi in training before the fall of the Jedi Order, Grogu was, they developed a special bond, such a special bond that Mando encountered two others of the Order, Ahsoka Tano, who was formerly a Jedi Padawan under Anakin Skywalker's tutelage, and Luke Skywalker, a Jedi and son of Anakin Skywalker, of course, and Padawan to Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we all know that story. Both encounters were favorable to the Mandalorian bounty hunter, with the latter even taking Grogu on, or Baby Yoda, if that's what you like to call him, as an apprentice and swearing his life to protect the 50-year-old man-toddler. What does this have to do with the Darksaber, you ask? Everything. The Mandalorian is moving in a direction that may send the wounds between Jedi and Mandalorians scurrying. With Din Djarin front and center and showing compassion for the Force-sensitive Grogu Baby Yoda man-toddler guy, and allowing his foundling to go off with a Jedi to be trained, with the Darksaber being created by a Jedi, then used as a weapon to kill Jedi by House Vizsla, the status symbol will not be favorable for the diplomacy of the two groups. It's actually a slap in the face to the Jedi Order for a Mandalorian to use it as a symbol of authority after using it to kill its members. Made by a Jedi to use for peace and protection, then taken by those wanting power and used to kill members of the very order that dedicated themselves as defenders of the peace, is ironic. To recap, Jedi aren't going to be real happy with the Darksaber around after it's killed many of its members. There we go. But is that a reason enough to destroy the blade? Why not just hand it off to the new generation of Jedi to keep safe as a relic of their order? Tried, tested, stolen from the Jedi Temple vault. Not gonna work. I'd also say any Jedi that knows what the Darksaber is would not want it in their collection. I know I wouldn't want to hold on to a weapon that killed many of my friends and colleagues. Let's also not forget the fact that any rogue Mandalorian would go after the blade and kill its current owner to obtain it. I'm looking at you, Bo-Katan Kryze, or Bo-Karen if you like to be called. But is this enough to destroy the blade? Maybe, but not entirely. My next point is its actual use. Not only was it used to kill Jedi, but it was used to kill Mandalorians as well. The very people they claimed to lead with the blade was being used to murder those considered their subjects. It was divisive, to say the least. It caused fractions to split from Mandalorian society and create their own rules, hence the creation of Death Watch, the true Mandalorians, and so on and so forth. No, I'm not saying Death Watch was formed because of the Darksaber, but the Darksaber was used as the symbol of its organization's leadership. Not to mention, it was only passed down in succession to one house, House Vizsla. The blade was front and center during more wars with the Mandalorians than peace by uniting the Mandalorian people under one leader and the Darksaber blade. But is this enough to destroy the Darksaber? Sure is, but there's still more. You're welcome. Let's look at those who have possessed the blade. Tar Vizsla, a great Jedi and leader of the Mandalorian people, but he didn't use the Darksaber as a symbol of his rule. It was his character that united the Mandalorian people. Again, if the children's stories are to be believed. It wasn't until centuries later that someone claimed it as their symbol of divine right, Maul. But how many Mandalorians honored him as the leader of the Mandalorian people just because he had the Darksaber? Other than his super commandos, who were formerly Death Watch? None. In fact, he placed Prime Minister Almec as the figurehead leader of Mandalore, so there wouldn't be an uprising against a non-Mandalorian leader. Let's not forget the Mandalorian people recognized Almec as a leader due to his status under the former leadership Duchess Satine Kryze. Almec was the next in line of succession had anything happened to her. It was a smart choice on Maul's part, but Almec was recognized as a leader by the people of Mandalore without carrying the Darksaber. Okay, moving on. Sabine Wren, who also possessed the Darksaber, she didn't even consider herself the leader of the Mandalorian people. In fact, she gave it to her own mother and was betrayed by her mother. Eventually, she gave it to Bo-Katan Kryze. Bo-Karen, how you doing? Who actually was considered leader of the Mandalorian people for a short time, until the Empire came in and took the Darksaber and wiped out a bunch of the Mandalorian people, which leads me to Moff Gideon, who was seen as the Mandalorian leader. Just because he had the Darksaber? Nope. In fact, Din Djarin didn't even know who Moff Gideon was. Had Gideon been the undisputed leader, Din Djarin's organization, the Children of the Watch, would have told him about it, or at least told him about the Darksaber's divine power. Din Djarin didn't even know what the Darksaber was, and he's in his 40s, well old enough to have heard the other Mandalorians discuss it, right? And that brings me to the current wielder of the Black Blade, Din Djarin. Does anyone see him as the undisputed Mandalore? Nope. In fact, he was kicked out of his own covert, the Children of the Watch, for removing his helmet. Bo-Katan Kryze also doesn't recognize him as her leader. She's staging a coup to get the Darksaber back from him. Power corrupts completely. Bo-Karen? So, when you boil it down to its simplest terms, only two Mandalorians that we know of have been recognized as the divine leaders of Mandalore while holding the blade. Tar Vizsla, and some 1,000 years later, Bo-Katan Kryze. The Darksaber has never been recognized as a symbol of divine right, only by a few outside House Vizsla. So with its creation by a Jedi, then its use to kill members of the same order, the deaths of many Mandalorians by those who have wielded it, and the fact it has not been recognized by all of Mandalorian society. It has no place in existence anymore, and it seems like just the upper echelon consider it a thing. It has divided more than it has unified, and not just with the Mandalorian people, but throughout the galaxy. The Darksaber needs to be destroyed, not wielded, not seen as some status symbol. There is one Mandalorian artifact that could be seen as a symbol of divine leadership, and that's the Mask of Mandalore, but I'll get into that in another video. So what do you think? Should the Darksaber continue as a symbol of Mandalorian leadership, or should it be destroyed? Those shouldn't be the only two options. If you have other options, let me know. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. This is Gerald from Star Wars Fanatics signing off, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.